So if Leighton got paid in chicken wings and Hennessy, imagine how I got paid. Or drink Hennessy. Clearly. But considering it's our father's legacy, I guess that means we'll continue. I'm not a public speaker. I'm so sweating right now, so please bear with me. And as my mother says, and most of you all know, when I'm on the spot, I will code switch. So please bear with me. Tonight it is my job to introduce our panelists, and I will be asking the questions for the evening. First, if I could have Mr. Kenneth Morris, to join us on the stage. Mr. Morris is from Houston, Texas. He is a decorated United States Navy veteran. In 2018, Mr. Kenneth was selected as one of the 11 U.S. military veterans and the only African-American selected by the Department of Transportation to fly in the Forces of Flyers Initiative. Upon completion, Mr. Morris examines a certified flight instructor. As a veteran of Operations Enduring Freedom, Operation Iraqi Freedom, Mr. Kenneth is a recipient of the Navy and the Marine Corps Achievement Medal, the NATO Medal, the Armed Forces Exemplary Medal, the Sea Service Deployment Medal, and is also the founder of the Universal Elite Aerospace, an aviation STEM outreach program that works with the youth and teens, motivating and inspiring them to exceed expectations in aviation. Welcome. Wherever you feel comfortable. Next, we have the Honorable Sharon Lewis, if you will join us on the stage. Ms. Lewis is our representative for the City of Galveston District 1 and a declared or a decorated educator with Galveston for over 20 years and was elected by the City Council in August of 2021.
Round of applause, everybody.
Next, we have Robert Hockley. Hockley is an advocate and a pioneer of community and all for empowerment. Hockley is the owner and CEO of G County Apparel and the 409 Foundation. If you all will welcome Mr. Robert. Next to the panel, we have Dr. Leanne Smith. Leanne is a licensed psychologist, published scholar, and an expert on Black mental health. She is the founder of the Mental Place, the Mending Place, which is a culturally affirmative and wellness brand that emphasizes community wellness. Over the past 10 years, Dr. Leanne has helped identify and overcome barriers within individuals and communities. She believes that fostering a resilient community dedicated to the health and the education and uplifting one another is the best counter. Systematic oppression. Okay, Dr. Leanne. Please welcome Dr. Leanne. I exited because I had just a little bit. I was like, I don't have anything. So, thank you, Dr. Leanne. Lastly, we have Commissioner Keith Henry. Commissioner or Trustee-elect Keith Henry recently served as the Commissioner of the City of Texas City District 1. Commissioner Henry currently serves as the Director of Public Policy for the Family Service Center of Mental Health and Wellbeing. Commissioner Henry being named a 40 under 40 veteran for his native Galveston County and a 40 under. Additionally, Commissioner Henry and his wife Diane, or Dion, please excuse me, have been recently inducted into Galveston's first African American Museum. Again, if we can welcome Commissioner Henry. So we'll dive right into questions. Dr. Leanne, what does Juneteenth mean to you personally? And why is it important to celebrate this holiday?
Can everybody hear me in the back if I talk like this? Okay, awesome. So I was born and raised on the island, so Juneteenth is just a holiday that I grew up always being around. My great uncle is actually J.J. Shabazz, and so for those who are familiar with his work, there was always a parade happening around Juneteenth and a huge community celebration for the kids. And so I grew up with just a very, thank you. I grew up with a very, okay. I grew up with a very, I'm still gonna talk loud, so that's a problem. But I grew up just seeing how much, how important it was for community to come together for a larger mission. The reason why I think it's important that we keep talking about Juneteenth is because after I left the island and have gone a lot of other places, I started to realize how many people don't even know about Juneteenth. And this was before it even became a national holiday, right? And I have a lot of friends who didn't know about Juneteenth, eventually learned about it, but are now working in places that don't even observe the holiday, right? It's an afterthought. So they had to remind people that they have Monday off. Whereas with other national holidays, I think it's given a lot more respect, I believe. And I think it's because the history of Juneteenth is uniquely positioned in Galveston because of, you know, how Juneteenth or the background behind Juneteenth. So I think it's important that we continue to celebrate Juneteenth, but I also think it's important that the true history of Juneteenth is maintained, and you can't do that without having Galveston represented. So those are my questions.
Ms. Lewis, this question is for you. How can we ensure that the history of Juneteenth is effectively taught and integrated into the community and school setting?
I'm the one here who has to know. It's called a cheat sheet, but it's also kind of a focus. So Juneteenth, in order for us to put it within the system of education, whether it be in the public or the private, we're going to have to make sure that we're very aware of history. And that means American history as well. A couple of notes says that many of you know that Texas was under Spain's rule. So it's critically important to know that, and Mexico, and how their feelings, what their position was on slavery, because it works its way through today here on this island. It was about in 1808, really, where slavery was abolished. Within that triangle, but of course it continued. And for us on this island, it is important to know that it continued within a history that we probably don't want to recognize, which is the pirates. I mean, they used slaves as contraband, and where slaves were exchanged for money. So history is critically important. We have to make sure that we read to our kids and we expose ourselves to history. Secondly, we need to look at the curriculum that is within the schools, and we're going to have to organize parents in order to be able to stand up to demand for changes and things that you will not accept. Who was it? The governor of Illinois just shut down and said, we're not going to take these changes, these ugly political changes that are saying, hey, because I am of this certain race, you cannot read about me, you cannot know my history. And in that state, he just shut it down. And of course, we know that Fort Hood is no longer called Fort Hood. There are some changes that are being made, and we know that history, so therefore those changes can be implemented or suggested through, again, history. So we need to first learn some more of our history and make it applicable to our kids, something fun where they will actually learn. Number two, we need to make sure that within the schools, we look at curriculums that are there and we push not only that, but in libraries where school books are being removed. You had parents outside of Austin, Texas. They did that. They made sure, no, you're not going to remove those books that teach our history, that a history that is true to us and to this country that we live in. So, and thirdly, we need to be advocates for reading. We have got to be advocates for reading. You know, there were times that my parents, I mean, they didn't sit down and just read stories, but everybody else in that house, of my older brothers and sisters, they read to us. We knew what reading represented. And reading was always that education key. And that's why in Galveston, we had the first Black high school. Education, critically important, critically important. So those are the three things that I would recommend or suggest for helping to get Juneteenth on a roll more in an educational setting.
So Pete, this question is for you. In your opinion, what is the most pressing concern or challenges we face in the Black community today in terms of achieving equality?
Ooh. Councilwoman of the policy. First of all, it is a pleasure to be on this distinguished panel and be in this room full of Black excellence. Thank you, JJ Sabaz Foundation, and certainly thank you, Ms. Tootie and Khalil, for carrying your father's legacy. To answer that, and I just have to be candid, I can only look at it from my perspective, from a politician and an individual who's just recently lost two very tough elections. I think we are going in the right direction, but if we're not careful, particularly here in the state of Texas, to ensure that we really keep our ears and our feet to the ground, not just at the voting booth. We know we'll get record turnout during presidential elections, but it is paltry, there's voter apathy, so nobody shows up during the local elections or when your state legislator is on the ballot. The state legislator has effectively repealed about 50 years worth of civil rights laws. So your higher education institutions can no longer teach diversity and inclusion. At your public school level, even Juneteenth is now illegal for a certified teacher to instruct. When you think about that, you think about why is education being attacked? Simple. Look at how many successful folks are in here. And I have to give a shout out to my class, 2003. Galveston Ball. I see many of you in here. But all of us come from very disenfranchised backgrounds. Most of us come from very disenfranchised backgrounds, and we stand here today highly educated, very either upper middle class or right in the middle class. But we had a quality education, and we had instructors who would, like Councilwoman Lewis, who would give us real game. That instructors are now going to be very challenged to do that without threat of not only losing their job, but they're licensed. And so it is imperative that we get actively engaged. Everybody can't give, but it's important to give. It's important to give to foundations such as J.J. Shabazz Foundation or any nonprofit. It's important to give to your local politicians. For the city of Galveston, one of my very good friends, there should be 2 individuals of color on council. And regardless of what somebody's personality may be, the one thing that I've learned, and I don't know who's a Republican in here, but the one thing that I've learned, I'm a Democrat, I have to say that. But the one thing that I have learned from my Republican colleagues is they play the game and they play it well. And they don't care. They don't care what your personality is. They don't care how much they dislike you. They are coordinated and they put together 10-year strategies that we in this room really need to start paying attention and listening to. So sorry, I didn't mean to be long-winded, but that's.
Robert, this question is yours. How can we empower and invest in our youth to ensure that they have access to opportunities for growth, education, and success?
First off, I want to let everybody in the room give a round of applause for y'all in this event, please, man, please. And I'm saying that because this young lady and her brother Khalil, this was what, nothing? This the first one? You know, and you saying, how do we empower? That's a great question. We empower the youth by showing them, by being present. This event did not exist last year. Do you understand what I'm saying? Brother Shabazz didn't even have this event when he was here. And look at us now in his presence. I mean, he is in our presence with this idea from our mind. So the only way to empower people is to show people, right? Even if you get it wrong, right? Show people, and from there you can get it right. But just talking and, you know, going over and over about what you gonna do ain't gonna help. You know, there's no disrespect to the idea, but we gotta put in the work, man. Them people coming out of slavery had more than we ever had. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because we still thinking about it. You know, so whatever you wanna show the youth or tell the youth, show them. If you're not doing it, be quiet. There's no disrespect, but be quiet. Lead by example or get the kids around somebody that's leading.
That's right.
And that's it, man. We'll make it where we need to go.
If we can pass it down, this question. We can pass it down. This question is for Kenneth. Mr. Kenneth, what steps can we take as a community to address the systematic barriers and create pathways for economic empowerment for Black individuals and business?
All right, so good evening again. My name is Kenneth Morris. Definitely want to preface what I'm going to say with, she mentioned the accolades and the medals from the military and so forth. But at the end of the day, I'm a kid from Fifth Ward that fly airplanes. Come on now. So I have to let you know that I'm not from Connecticut or New York. I'm really from the hood, right? So if any of you're in Galveston, you heard of the Lone Star Flight Museum that was here some time ago. So they started 33 years ago. What you will not find online is I'm the first Black person they ever hired in 33 years. So I used to drive from Fifth Ward to Galveston every day because my role was Director of Education and Outreach. So my job as the first person they hired for the new museum that's at Ellington Airport, I got the very first key. Nobody could come into the building. And my entire focus was empowering our people, right? Because you don't know what you don't know. I've been doing this for 25 years, right? I've been all around the world. I was terrified of heights growing up. Everybody in the Fifth Ward still scared of heights, right? Because we passed that down generation after generation. Black people don't fly. You get in the plane gonna crash, the turbulence and all that is because we don't know. So when we talk about empowering and the economic growth, the guy that works under me, he makes $100 an hour. The dude working above me makes $300 an hour. We may work 12 days out the month. We're gonna get paid regardless. My GPA out of high school was 2.1.
Come on here.
But if I don't come back and share this information with you, then you think you gotta be a 4.0 student. And your parents, my parents, I don't even have a relationship with my parents. My grandmother raised me. So no, regardless of what it is that you're going through, a lot of times if a person is coming back, putting you in a better economic situation, I could easily go to United, Delta, and just go on with my life. But it's important to me, and I'm grateful to be here, so I can share with young people. Here's the blueprint. And anybody that knows me knows I'm gonna be very authentic. I'm gonna tell you everything that I've done, what not to do. I preach about getting tattoos. I started getting tattoos in the 8th grade. Worst decision ever made.
Yeah.
If you see me flying your plane from Houston to Hawaii and I'm tatted up with Fifth Ward, Texas all over me, you're gonna judge me. So I tell young people now, if you wanna do it, understand it's gonna impact your economic growth, because people that don't look like us, that don't understand us, they're gonna judge you the moment they see you. So when we talk about it, as the brother said earlier, we gotta show them. For our kids wanna be something different, they gotta see something different. When I first came home, I used to wear this thing, they thought it was a costume. I got a green one. Tomorrow, and this is a shameless plug, and I'm 30 seconds a month. Tomorrow, we're gonna be on KHOU 11. When you look at the news tomorrow, we have 50 young kids from the inner city with United Airlines at Lone Star Flight Museum. The room looked just like this. It's all of our people. So we were empowering these young people to have careers, to do things that they probably never dreamed of. But when they look at us and look in the mirror, they see that success. I'm a basketball player, I'm all those things, but one of my skill sets is flying airplanes. And the last thing I want to leave on is the family unit. No matter how good I do, no matter how excited I get, if when they go home, the parents, if we're not pouring into them, then they'll never achieve their full potential. Miss Tiara Fisher in the back, she stand up. So this is my connection to this event. Thank you very much. What we do is, together as my partner, the kids, they can be whatever they want, and we empower them every single chance we get. So that's how we grow our people.
Before I move on to my next question, my father's job. Hockley reminds me a lot of my daddy. So he walked in with King. He takes it wherever he goes. You couldn't meet my father anywhere without me, Uncle Bill, Coach. If you knew him, you knew that wherever he was, we were. And I see that. So everything that he pours into me, it's our King thing. It just reminds.
Appreciate that.
So this question is for Ms. Sharon and Keith. It says, how can we engage and include community leaders, organizations, and corporate partners to work collaboratively towards achieving Black liberation and creating substantial change or sustainable change?
And I attended a workshop in Dallas. It wasn't really a workshop, just information, called Commit Dallas. And this guy, of course, who didn't look like me, is the CEO of the company. But when he gave the mission, it just hit me because I've never heard a mission statement with that information. And his mission statement was he had a date of a year and he was speaking economically for the parent, that he wanted to move parents up the scale economically. But the connection was he knew if that had to happen, he had to move the kids up. So DISD went through this huge change by moving around educators, ones who could really work with children of special needs or children who look like us, and get those scores up. And anyway, they outscored um, the North. It's Dallas area North. What is it called? Farley. What's it called? North Park. Yeah, and the kids surrounding that school district, because that school district had no poverty level at all, the other school districts bumped up and outscored them. And they couldn't figure out what had happened. Well, he brought in a lot of corporate partners. And he said, if you don't pay now, you're going to pay later if we can't educate children, if we can't educate parents. So it was a huge collaboration that I had never seen with a mission that I had never heard, because the mission included the child and it included the parent financially. They partnered with Dallas Community College to offer a BA degree in teaching. So therefore, parents could get a job making good money. School was not expensive. So I saw collaboration and heard collaboration that I never heard in my life. Galveston alone has more philanthropists, I think, than any other city around here, people with money. But he went to a different level. So we have to be able, in a way, to make connections to those corporations that exist here and off the island, to show them that education is critically important. It's called Commit Dallas, and they had a mission and they accomplished that goal, but they used businesses and philanthropists, but it was in that order, not philanthropists first, but it was a business for training to make sure that parents can get training. If their income level moved up, then that would help them with their kids and education. So I don't have a secret answer as to how to collaborate with those businesses, but I heard it and I know that it can be successful if we get the right people in place. And a lot of you all have out here have connections or have knowledge in areas that I don't have. So we have to start collaborating together and seeing how can we push for a better education for kids, and not only that, for parents, to grow those parents so that they can be able to survive economically.
I could probably write a dissertation on collaboration from the politician's purview. And I'm trying to exercise brevity. From the politician's purview, I always tell people that you are your elected official's boss. And so it is your right and your civic duty to hold politicians accountable. And this may not, so let me preface by saying this. This is going to be very unpopular. Oftentimes we get African Americans, and I'm also referring to myself, we get African Americans in power and we're so proud. We got a brother in power. But then we realize, oh, that individual was just placed there. Mm-hmm. And we're afraid to really give constructive criticism. Again, citizens, we all have the power to say, hey, this is the direction that we as the constituency want to go. Now, and I think both Hockley and I, we discussed this prior. And Hockley put it. He probably answered this better than me. There's something you call corporate welfare or corporate governance. And in corporate, every major corporation, Chevron, Shell, Nike, they all have a nonprofit arm. And that nonprofit arm is effectively, it's really given or is implemented for a tax break. Now, how do you get to the table? You say, this is what I'm doing for my community, and this is what we need. And you begin to hold those corporations accountable the same way you would hold politicians accountable. Collaboration. But I think it's, again, that's really paramount that we begin to understand that process. You understand both the politics of business and understand the business of politics. It all correlates. So that's my answer. It's very much a form, but you got to remember that you have the power. I don't care how much money you have in your pocket. You have a vote, and you have a voice, and you have power. Just get a collective group like folks in this room, collective minds put together. I guarantee you, and it was City of Texas City, 7 commissioners. 4 African Americans sat on that dais. We probably get anything pushed we wanted because we had the majority votes. And I'll never forget, in the district I served, West Texas City, predominantly Black. And I would always tell my Black constituents, hey, I need y'all to come to City Hall. You want to fight for this? I need you. But then there's this one section of my district that is predominantly affluent and white. They didn't want a gas station by their subdivision. Every single one I kept these emails, but almost the same language. Like 30, 40, about the 40th email I received, and I can't respond to everybody. I'm just going to set up a Zoom or a town hall and meet with my constituents. All 40 of them got on that Zoom. And they had a valid argument. So I told them, come to City Hall. Here is when City Commission meeting is. Do you know they showed it with about 50 to 60 people? And every one of us commissioners start counting votes. That's how collaboration works.
This question is for Mr. Kennedy. So we ask Mike. Mr. Kennedy, what strategies or initiatives have you seen or been a part of that are effectively empowering or uplifting the Black youth in your community?
That's a great question. I think again, it's less talk, more action. At the end of the day, I can sit here and give the greatest keynotes. You can record it and put it on YouTube and so forth. But if you bring your young person to me, the impact I would have with them face to face exponentially will be so much more. So when we talk about programs, I can tell you 10 different programs with Black pilots around the country that are trying to do what I'm doing. And my whole focus is getting more of us involved, whether you want to be a pilot or not. Air traffic controllers, dispatchers, mechanics. I got a brother who started his own barbershop in the airport, cutting our hair while we wait on airplanes. The entrepreneurial side, accountants, things that we typically don't think of. So for that next generation of young people, these programs are already out there, but you don't know where to look, right? If you Google commercial airline pilot, the first 5 pages are going to be older white males, right? So my responsibility is to come back and pour into those and share that information. Anybody that comes to my academies, I give you 27 pages of scholarships. If not, it's going to take you months to find those. So when we talk about these programs, and I have nothing against the Boys and Girls Clubs. I was in Fifth Ward in Richmond growing up. After school, they'll take us somewhere and put us in the gym. We run around the gym, getting cookies and milk, playing basketball. But that's all I was exposed to. I never saw anybody look like me flying airplanes. But if you would have took me to an airport or put me in a room with somebody that just sparked that just one time thing about flying a plane, who knows what would happen. So when we talk about these programs, we want people to think outside the box, because what they tell us in school, go to school, be a teacher, doctor, lawyer, nurse, firefighter, but nobody ever told me you're gonna fly multi-million-dollar airplanes. So when we talk about these programs, again, it's not to downplay others, because you need that balance. But when a young person, like, get outside of your comfort zone, it's gonna be uncomfortable, because you don't know anything about airplanes. So you don't wanna put your kid out there. But it could change generational values in your entire family. And I'm telling you, this is my testimony. I'm telling you from experience. I'm not telling you something I Googled. If you knew my history, my real background, and the things I've been through, on paper, I'm not supposed to be here right now. So that's why this is my ministry. So it starts with the young people. Nothing wrong with taking them to football camp, nothing wrong with taking them to basketball camp, but every now and then switch it up. Every now and then switch it up, because we got some brilliant young minds. And I've seen them in the Lone Star Flight Museum. I've seen these young people and I'm blown away. I barely graduated high school and I've made it to where I'm at. They're gonna do things that we can't even imagine right now. So in closing, when we talk about what programs are out there, I can list them all and you can go and Google them and so forth. But at the end of the day, it does not have to be, and nothing wrong with music camp, basketball, football, but do something that scares you a little bit. When I tell you I'm gonna take your kid flying and we're gonna get up to 3,000 feet and I'm gonna let the controls go, I'm gonna let them fly the plane. Don't be scared, I don't do that. So trust me, we're gonna land safely. So when I tell you that though, you're like, what, you gonna let them fly? Relax. I promise you it's gonna change his or her life. And I'm a big advocate for more Black female pilots.
Yeah.
Some of the best pilots I've ever flown would have been Black women. And I'll go on record and say that anywhere in the country. So think outside the box. If I can do it, they can do it.
So you can chime in. Okay, so I wanted to talk a little bit because we're talking about youth programming, and youth programming is important, right? But I also research youth programming and specifically things that help Black youth. And so a lot of the things we're talking about, research backs it. The question is, why does the research not get to the people who execute the programs, right? So there's a huge research to practice gap. And then there's an even larger research to practice to policy gap. And so some of the things that we know work well for Black youth, number one is education and critical education. And both of the politicians here mentioned that critical education is being attacked. And in Texas it's being attacked uniquely. But when we aren't able to tell our children the truth about their story, that actually etches away at their self-esteem. That's what the research says. So now they're sitting in classrooms learning about people who don't reflect them. And so they're then trying to figure out why they can't learn great things about people who look like them. So something must be wrong with me if we are not represented, right? Representation. They need to see what they want to be or what they can be before they can even imagine it, dream about it, and then build the skills to do it. And even if they can dream, they need somebody to motivate them along the way. So mentorship is something that always helps Black youth. And innovation is what we have working on our side. A lot of the best Black youth programs are very innovative. They're barbershop programs where they're meeting the kids where they are. They're makeup programs where they're getting girls together around shared interests, right? But it's about thinking about what are the gaps that our children have, what are the interests that aren't being given a little bit of fire, and then pairing them with people who are as passionate as all of us in here and helping them get to whatever their next stage is, right? Maybe their next stage is just going to the airport and seeing the airplanes because they've never seen that. Maybe their next step is having somebody mentor them on exactly what it means to fly an airplane, right? So just knowing that the answers are out there, I think a good thing for us to be thinking about is how we bridge those 3 different gaps. And we have a lot of people who represent a lot of different disciplines on the boots on the ground, the research, the policy, and the program. So we all need to do our collective work, come together and add some collective action to it.
Last question of the night so that we can get to.
But Robert, this question is for you. Galveston has a rich cultural heritage and a vibrant history. How can we preserve and promote the local Black history and culture of Galveston and ensure that it is celebrated and shared with future generations?
We definitely had one of the best ways to do it. In today's time is through technology. So one of the things that lead me here is that before Coach passed away, I wanted to record his story. Now listen to me. We have a great history of people that have existed through our time, but they haven't told their story, right? So let's say like a Jack Johnson or this or that. As you see these screens and cameras and stuff, now we are able to record these things and they're able to live forever, right? So one of the ways to pass things down in today's time is to document and record it straight from the person's mouth. And that's one of the things that I've started. I've been able to get a few people's stories like Tar Scott's story. I've been able to get Ms. Merchant's story with mainland prep and things like that. So I think documenting the stories from the people while they are living, don't wait for them to pass away. Like I was able to miss the opportunity with Coach to be able to tell his story. So document it. We live in a YouTube era. You can document these things, live forever. And before I close, I want to backtrack on the programs that work and are effective. The most effective program is parenting. This is what I'm telling you. If you listen, you don't have to be Dr. Martin Luther King. You don't have to be a parent. Right here in this room, we talking about Coach. He raised his son, Khalil, ain't in no game. Look at Miss Sheila with her son Rodney. He grew up in a time where we all fell victim to gangs and drug violence. Sheila ain't never been rich, but she been a parent. Do you understand what I'm saying? You don't have to, and that's not to knock people like my mother, where I had to go into gangs because she had to work 2 jobs and do different things like that. But the greatest thing we can do is be a parent. You know what I'm saying? We finna leave this room. We can have a whole conversation. People watch this conversation. You want to fix this community? Raise your child.
So again, we are going to thank each of our panelists. We're going to excuse you. And I'm going to pass this mic off.